My name is Leroy G. Stockton. I was born and raised in San Jose, California. Stockton was the last name when they got married, but my mother's maiden name was Williams, and she is from Wales. Or she's not from Wales, but her family is from Wales. And my dad and his family moved over from New Jersey to San Jose, California, when he was a young fellow. And that's about the size of that. That was my grandfather.
And what country was he living in?
He was living in Wales in a castle.
In a castle, that's what you told me.
They were a well-to-do family, and he ran away from Wales.
And his last name was what?
Williams.
Williams, that's what. Okay.
And it's the original boat that he came over on, and he carved it out with his pocket knife.
Oh, wow.
And I have that, and I have his life story in a book about his travels when he came to California, and when he went across the country and landed in Missouri.
So he was living in the castle, went and got on a ship. Was he a passenger, or did he become part of the crew?
Oh, he was a crew. They were out at sea for about 3 or 4 years, I guess. And they landed in California, and that's where he and his buddy got off, and then they decided to travel across the country.
Did he build a home? Raised how many kids? 8 kids?
8 kids, and my mother was his youngest daughter.
What's the name of your mother?
Alice Azalia Williams.
Azalia?
Azalia. He named her after the flower.
Okay.
Because she was a pretty girl, and he thought of an Azalia when he named her. Going from San Jose to Santa Cruz, and my mother used to take the train to see her folks. Then they got together, and this was it towards the end of the Depression, and they got married, and of course they were young, and my dad started at Pacific Manufacturing Company in San Jose as a office boy.
Okay.
This was my dad's side, and her name was Grace. I don't remember her last name. And his name was Frank, and he worked at the same Pacific Manufacturing Company in San Jose, and they had 2 kids, my dad and my aunt, and I can remember when I can remember I had a hat on, and I threw it out the window.
Of the train?
Of the train.
What is your very earliest memory? What do you going back?
Throwing my hat out the train.
That's probably one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in high school, and World War II broke out. Was kind of a cut up and roustabout, and so to make a long story short, I wanted to join the Coast Guard because the war was going on, and so I was just turned 17 years old, and my dad signed for me.
Car? What kind of car is that?
That was my dad bought a brand new 41 DeSoto. He went back to Michigan and picked it up and drove it back. And they took a trip and everything, and that was, and when I came out of the service, I bought that from my dad. Hollywood Canteen was for the servicemen, and
They're at the port, or
in Long Beach or in Hollywood, and one of the crews was my best buddy, and so her father worked at Disneyland, and he had a good job, and when I hitchhiked and everything went into, I had nothing but leave because the ship was not working, you know, and they had to work on it. So I had nothing but leave, so I'd hitchhike into Hollywood and met Pat, and the father would give me the keys to the car and give me a drink and go out and have some fun. And I did, and I went with her for quite a while, but anyway, that's another story. Going into that, her brother and I were going to travel around the world sailing because he was interested in boats and everything, and I was going to get, when I came out of the service, I was going to go back to Hollywood and, build a ship or buy a ship, but that never came about. But they had the Hollywood Canteen in Hollywood, and it was for all the servicemen, and they'd have a big board on the wall where the aristocrats and everything would have parties that they'd want sailors or soldiers or whatever to go and visit and have a party with them and this sort of thing, just to, and then they would give you a ticket when you went in, and they had a big wheel with numbers on it. The winner would win a $25 war bond and get to kiss the movie star it was on. And my ideal was, at the time, was Esther Williams. Esther Williams, and I had a ticket, and I was sitting on the floor, and they spun the wheel, and it went around and around and around, stopped right on my number.
Really?
And I was halfway up to the stage, and it went bloop to the next number.
No.
I didn't get to kiss the movie star.
What was your favorite type of music, or who was your favorite musician?
Oh, Glenn Miller, and even today, I'm the same way about music, and I love to dance, and I've danced all my life, and I signed up. I went to the office of the telephone company, and I put my application in, and then it was Easter vacation, and started out playing the drums for a while, and I went into saxophone. I played the saxophone for a while, and I was in parades and this sort of thing in San Jose. We used to have the jukebox going, and we'd go down there and dance and do the jitterbug and with Glenn Miller, and it was a great life. And I thought this was what life was all about, When I went into the gambling business and up at Lake Tahoe, the casinos and telephone company, and I had good jobs and everything at Lake Tahoe. I was making a lot of money, and a street that I was always looking for something, to build something, to do something, and there was a vacant lot there, and I had, in the meantime, gee whiz, this would be a good place to build a different apartment. So I sold my house and put the down payment on it, and we built 4 one-bedroom apartments above a 1,900 square foot home, which I lived in.
Okay, so you were trained in boot camp, you mentioned,
Alameda, California.
Alameda, California, for this particular ship.
Oh, yes. There's a 5-inch turns to 4.5, and there's a quad 40 that I was on. That was my gun. Holy mackerel. That's beautiful.
You mentioned you were on the USS Corpus Christi.
Yeah, I don't have pictures of that.
And so this one says it's the Corpus Christi.
Oh, yeah, that's it. It's like a destroyer.
And so what did you do on that ship?
Well, that's the one I went overseas and to Okinawa. Back, my gun was credited with shooting a zero down. Then I went aboard the U.S. Hutchinson, and it was being decommissioned, and this was being decommissioned at the same time, and so they transferred me to the Hutchinson, and I stayed aboard that for a month or two, and then they decommissioned it, and so that's when I headed back to San Francisco and got discharged. Big convoy. They had transports and everything, and
You were there for security or basically defense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did you have any where you attacked everybody, the Japanese?
Yeah. And that was about it.
Hmm.
But anyway, there was a lot of activity going on there because it was the last standoff before they went into Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and the war was over. And they knew this, and it was that's why there was so many ships going over for supplies and everything, and it was a big thing.
Yeah.
But that was the only time,
When you went over there, did you stay on the ship or did you go on?
Oh no, I stayed on. We were aboard ship, never went off of it because the Japanese had tunnels underground, and they were bogged down. They knew this was their last stand. And they stayed there until they died. They weren't gonna. There were tunnels underground where they had all their facilities and everything, and it was something on land. Wasn't involved in it. They had the landing boats and everything that went in, and Marines and the soldiers. And well, we were there for a little bit for giving them support from the ships, and then we went back, and that was the end of the war. I was on my way back. We were on our way back to the United States,
Okay.
and that's where I laid down in my bunk and wondering what the hell I was going to do. I didn't have any education and this sort of thing, and then I got discharged. And my mother and dad, before that, mother and dad wanted to see me graduate from high school. So they sent the papers to the high school and with the class that was graduating then, they gave me a diploma.
What was the name of your high school?
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
And then there's other things there. Frank Sinatra.
Did you meet Frank? Did you meet Frank?
Oh, yeah.
You met Frank.
He was building the Calaneva Club on the North Shore. And the mafia came in They had a big meeting, all of the mafia, all around the country, at Lake Tahoe. They had a big meeting, and Sinatra wanted to be with the mafia at the time, and he was trying to get in there, and he was in there. And make a long story short, when I was working at Sahara Tahoe, I saw him when the mafia was there in their big meetings. I saw Sinatra and a big casino, our big mafia boss, come walking in, and Frank Sinatra had a temper, and he'd fly off the handle right now. And I was right at my table was right there, and the hotel was right there where I could see, and the casino was all behind me, and I had a view of everything. And I saw Sinatra walk in, and I saw the mafia boss walk in with them. They were coming. And I saw the pit boss, his eyes lit up, and he immediately walked over to greet him, and I said, oh, there's going to be holy hell breaking loose now, you know. And I was working for the phone company, and I was working up in the boards where you look down and everything, and putting the phones in up there, and
For the casino or
for the casino, and I watch them every Saturday night.
Lawrence Welk.
Lawrence Welk.
That's where you would watch Lawrence Welk when they traveled to Sparks, Nevada?
Well, they were there,
Oh,
and for quite a while,
okay.
and they were putting. And I used to watch their dress rehearsals, because
Oh, so they had a lot of dress rehearsals, and because you were working on the phones or whatever, you got to...
I'd come down and sit down and watch them.
Ah, and that's where the Champagne lady, what's her name?
Norma Zimmer?
Norma Zimmer.
No, I didn't see her.
She wasn't there at that time?
Apparently not. I don't know.
Right.
I didn't even know her then.
Okay, know of her.
Know of her.
Yeah.
But anyway.
You love that music. You love that
Oh, yeah.
that stuff.
I was quite a dancer, and you do a lot of dancing and this sort of thing. In high school.
Did you go down there and dance during the rehearsal with anybody?
Oh, no. I just watched them. And in high school, they used to have, at noontime, they had a jukebox, and that's when we'd go down and dance, and Glenn Miller. And
Was that like in a cafeteria or something? Or
it was a big place, and a hall and cafeteria and this sort of thing.
Or have you only been married once or more than once?
Twice.
Twice.
My first marriage was with my wife, and I think I was married to her for 20 years, and I had 2 kids, 2 girls. It was a great life, and I thought this was what life was all about, you know.